Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 18th, or not the 18th, the 17th day of August, 2020. We have an 8 energy today, so embrace the spiritual warrior within and understand the bigger picture. And if you're called to a leadership role, don't hesitate. Use your leadership skills to light the way for others. Well, I hope everybody had a good weekend. We lost internet on Saturday because of a fire just this side, just on the outskirts of Bend, the next city over. It was in a one of those wrecking yards, and some cars caught fire. I don't know what happened there, but anyway, they had like a level 3 evacuation order, a go order. They had to go now. I don't know how many hundreds of homes were in jeopardy, but I don't know if anything burned in that. I know that some juniper was burning, but I don't know if it reached any homes. But it was scary. I mean, it's not that we don't have fires here in Central Oregon every summer. We do. And I mean, everything is so combustible around here. It's just a miracle, you know, that the whole place doesn't burn down. You know, being on the high desert, things are dry. And, you know, you can't, you have to really create defensible space. And, you know, when folks want to live on the high desert or in the mountains, because, you know, you go to Bend and it's Ponderosa Pines. So you go from juniper to the woods. You know, we're about 3,000 feet above sea level right here where we are, but then you just drive up the road, you know, to where the fires were, and you're at 5,000 feet. So, you know, you go upwards very quickly around here, and so the terrain changes and all of that. So, then people like to live in the woods. They just do. But I guess Ben, Redmond, and Sisters were all affected by the internet outage. I guess the area that burned up some of their equipment, and they couldn't get in, you know. They were still fighting the fire, and probably part of the time it's still too hot to get in there. But anyway, by yesterday afternoon sometime, it came back on. So if you signed up for the newsletter, then you got it late in the evening last night. When I finally was able to go online to my software's online. You know, I use MailChimp. And so I have to do it online. I couldn't do it on my phone, and I didn't want to use my phone as a tether, so anyway, I guess I probably could have done that, but I didn't. Anyway, I just waited. I just thought, you know what, it's going to come back on. It's going to come back on, and it finally did. And then I was in the middle of doing some other things, and so I had to wait. But anyway, if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, I encourage you to do so. You get all of the esoteric influences for the week in your inbox, other than the real specifics on each day for human design, the human design section of it. That I do every day. I want to do it every day because I want to take I kind of use it as more of a collective sometimes. Well, most of the time it's more of a collective type of a reading instead of just an individual one. So I wanted to, I like to do that you know, the day of, the morning of. I like to do it then. So it kind of keeps my mind current as to what's going on and all of that, in case it ends up being a collective type of a reading over an individual one. So anyway, but if you want to, you know, it's over on the left side panel of the blog over at imsteppingaside.com. It's called Stepping Aside. It's a witch and herbalism blog. So if you want to go over there and check that out, I'd love you to do that. And if you haven't clicked subscribe here on the YouTube channel, I sure would love you to do that too, and watch both the videos. And then sometimes I'll do a series. I have a series I'm doing called Foundations in Magic, and so we talk about, you know, fundamentals there. We've talked about runes, and we've talked about sigils and elements and all kinds of things. So it's just the basics. You know, things that I'm interested in mostly. I don't really talk about stuff other traditions have or anything. I'm not part of a coven, so, you know, most witches are not. We just all do our own thing. You know, cobble together stuff that other people, like somebody does, like somebody will do some hoodoo stuff or some powwow stuff or whatever. It's like, ooh, that's cool. I like that. You know, I kind of already do that. So, you know, how do you do it? So You know, you got conjure, you got all kinds of stuff that people like me like to do. So I don't know, that, and I like to do runes and herb magic and all of that. So, you know, most of us, we just sort of, like I say, do what feels right. And if it happens to be part of somebody else's tradition, well, that's fine, you know. We're all in it together. So anyway, but yeah, if you want to, if this is your first time here to the somewhat daily tarot and rune video, then, you know, welcome, and I do hope you click subscribe and come back and join our little family here, where we explore runes and tarot and all of that, and see how it can influence our lives. I don't do specific kinds of readings for this. I simply do influences, just the energetic influences for the day, and just kind of what the focus will be. But doesn't mean we can't. I just usually don't. Anyway, I'm going to take the 13th card each time I take a card here. I'm going to take 3 cards. I'll do more if we need them, but first we're going to talk about the first 3. And if we don't, then we'll move right along to a rune from the Elder Futhark bag, and we will close out with a geomancy rune for today. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started and take our first 3 cards. On this Monday, this moon day, we have the Page of Cups to start us out. Undeveloped potential. Cups is emotions. Page is student or new beginnings, or again, undeveloped potential. This has to do with our emotions, our perceptions, maybe compassion. But we'll see what else, because it's a court card. You never know. Court cards are funny. You either interpret it based on the individual in question. Here, this would be a student or a youthful person. The knight would be a little bit older, and then the king and the queen would be authority, and older yet. Or it can be the qualities of the card. You know, again, like undeveloped potential or message. Oh, 6 of Wands. Shared will. Oh, it's time to redo my nails. This is why I use light colored fingernail polish. If I do black, it's pretty obvious. It's like, oh God, woman, do your nails. I think I have a nail polish that's called, is it called Sinister Black or something? It's very cool. Has a little sparkly stuff in it. It's very cool. Well, we have the Lovers. Another 6 card of the Major Arcana. So I think what we're going to do, at least for the time being, we're going to put the Lovers in the center. And we'll talk about that first. And then we'll talk about the Page of Cups. I think that we can also do it in order if we want to. And you can always move your cards around. But I think we'll start with, since the Lovers is a major card, we're going to start with the Lovers. So we see the sun above, the sun of Source Presence. We see the angel. We see the oak tree and the apple tree. We see the serpent on the apple tree. We see Adam and Eve, or representations of Adam and Eve. We see the clouds. We see the mountain peak between them, kind of phallic looking. Well, okay. So we have Adam looking at Eve, which we've talked about before. He's not looking towards spirit. She is. We see the, basically when you're talking about the Lovers, you're talking about integration and balance with somebody else. You're talking about coming into harmony. It could have to do with marriage, but it's alignment with somebody else. You could also talk about it as the alignment of masculine and feminine within as well. So it's not necessarily somebody between you and someone else. It could just be you that needs alignment here. It needs to get alignment from spirit. But let's talk about the strength of the feminine. Because you see the peak bends toward her on the mountain. It angles toward her. The oak tree behind the man, and of course they're drawn in their purest form, nude. But the oak tree is kind of sketchy, isn't it? Whereas you look at that apple tree and you're looking at apples, you're looking at abundance. You see the serpent of knowledge coiled around the tree. When we know from history, biblical history and other kinds of esoteric history, that when the Watchers came, those that came from the heavens or from outer space, when they came to bring information to the human population. Whether they had been genetically manipulated at that point, I assume they had been, so they could then receive that knowledge. But I suspect that it was like a series of visitors that did that along the way, probably over tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years. But at some point, knowledge came in via what we call the Watchers. And these were angelic presence who came down. Angelic, not necessarily actual angel type of energies, but energies that were more powerful and more magical and more a higher frequency than what the common human was, whatever that was at the time. And so they had to come and bring information. Now, the man was probably just a little too instinctive oriented, so probably a little too warring, a little too, full of himself maybe. But the true person who was literally in charge was the woman. And so look at what they've done. They created abundance for her, but not so much for him. But look at where she's looking. She's gazing towards spirit. She's gazing toward the angel above and the manifestation of spirit in her life. And so she was given the knowledge, not because she was the weakest one to grab for it, but because she was, because it wasn't a matter of turning your heart and your mind and your focus away from spirit. That's not what this was. It became this real religious thing, but that's not what this was. This was about giving whoever was the one who could best receive it, i.e. the woman, because let's face it, she was the one responsible for, the children and for populating everything. Without her, there's no babies, right? So basically, Eve was the powerful one, and Eve was the one that the Watchers gave that information to, so that the women in the group would have the understanding to carry forward civilization that was necessary for them to have. The guy wasn't really interested in it. The guy was more interested in her. So they had to settle on somebody, and clearly the woman was the more powerful individual. So heresy for the day. So I guess that's what I want to say here about this whole thing of the imbalance in power that's happening. Excuse me. We've had there's so much smoke in the air, I'm telling you, it's just killing me. Hang on a minute. We've got fires to the north of us. The Mosier Creek fire is happening, and you just have this little, constant sense of smoke everywhere, and you're breathing it in even if you don't realize it, and it just destroys my throat. Anyway, you've basically got an issue of power imbalance right now, and we have had for thousands of years in terms of patriarchy and the expression of patriarchy in our lives. Women have been oppressed, children are used, they're exploited, women are used and exploited, they're harmed. Generally speaking, it's from this male-dominated, and not necessarily men, okay, this is not gender, this is masculine type of projective type of energy, willful energy that's gotten out of balance and gotten so far afield of what the egalitarian way of functioning should be. If you have a bird with a broken wing, what happens? They don't fly very well. Well, we have a broken wing. And what we're seeing now is the strength of the woman has been suppressed for so long that whatever guiding influence she could have had, goddess presence type of influence, has been missing and lacking. It's why we have a leader now that if you want to call him that has no empathy. and cannot understand what is happening to the country. Or he does, and it's by design. He wants this to happen. One of the two. It's one of the two. It's either or. It's not some shades in between. You either got a guy who's clueless or you have a guy who's doing it intentionally. And that's, I think, really where are we coming down now? I think it's becoming very obvious. You see it with the law enforcement issues that we're having now. Same sort of dynamic where the will is running amok and the divine presence within, the divine feminine within, is missing entirely. And so I think that what we see here with the Page of Cups, we're looking at, you see the water behind him and the delineation there, this delineation line between him and the water. We see a little fish sticking its head out. It's a card of Pisces. Basically, you're seeing some dynamic there with the red on his clothing, but the bulk of it in the center is blue. And so the Page of Cups is about undeveloped potential with respect to our emotional presence in the world. So maybe there is, with a rebalancing that needs to take place, maybe we're going to start to see more empathy being shown. I think what you're seeing, ooh, okay, this is doing its thing again, and so hopefully it'll come back on. It did, cool. It just gets a little dark. I don't know what's going on with this computer. I'm really to the point where I think I'm just going to get a different one. I can't do this anymore, right? Anyway, I don't like anything messing up because it's like, oh gosh, what's going to happen, right? But here we have undeveloped potential, okay, with respect to compassion and empathy and all of that for others. If we just change course and go on a shared path together. Here we have a better expression of will, don't we? Whether this is the king or just somebody who's maybe just someone in authority in the town coming back in victory somehow. So whatever the issues were, they've resolved them, and they've resolved them in unity with one another. And so now, instead of whatever it was, the will getting out of balance or what have you, that took us down a path of division and separation and disunity and oppression, that's been resolved by a change in perspective that creates more empathy and compassion for one another. So that's the message then for today. And then we go forward in shared purpose and a shared direction, a shared path. You know, and in this 22 year, that's really what we're talking about. If you take it down to the 22, okay, let's just write it out. What you see is balance and balance. And if we look at inner balance together twice, then it's my balance and your balance coming together as the cosmic builder energy to manifest a new way forward, new perceptions in particular, how we see one another. Do we see, do we see the other when we look at someone else, or do we see the other side of self? Because that's really the distinction that I'm talking about here, and it's the balance that we've lost collectively in this world. Anytime you have issues of dictating, when you have, look at what's happened in Belarus, okay? You know, you've got the dictator that's been there for freaking ever, right? And now he's just decided he won. You know, and got Putin involved now, got to bring the KGB in, all this other nonsense, right? And people are being taken, protesters are being taken out of their cars, put and disappeared, right? Wherever they're taking them. You don't know if you're ever going to see them again, right? All you got to do is look at Portland, here in Oregon, where I live. Look at Portland. They were doing the same kinds of stuff. The parallels right now in terms of oppression are remarkable and outrageous and incredible and over the top. But in this 22 year, we have this ability now, the energy's present, to come together in a way where we literally have the ability at that point, with that shared energy, to create anew and to manifest something quite profound. Taking the ego out of the equation and replacing it with spirit. So I think that that's what we're talking about. Let's do one more card just to be sure, to see if we can get maybe just a little more information, maybe about the shared path. But clearly, we've been out of balance. We have disregarded the divine feminine within for way too long, and now Goddess is back, and Goddess isn't happy about it. It's like, okay, you know, it's enough now. Because now you're trying to affect our children and the health and lives and safety of our children, sending them back to a veritable petri dish of COVID-19. And what's going to be the trickle-down effect when they come home with it? I talked about this in the esoteric influences. You know, keep your kids home if you can. Well, find a way to keep them home. Not if you can. Find a way. Find a way to do it. This is the authorities in charge are not thinking, and they're not doing anything to help anybody right now. They're doing everything in their power, though, to put everyone in harm's way. That's what they're doing. And as much as I'm concerned about the vote issue, it's the kids that I'm worried about the most, and what's going to happen with them, what's going to happen then to the families when they come home, little carriers of this. When everybody in the house gets sick, what then? Who's going to take care of those kids? If something awful happens, who's going to do that? Is the government going to pay? Oh, not these guys. Here we have the Seven of Cups, which I typically like to think about dreaming new dreams and possibilities and all of this, but here they've got their head in their clouds and then they're not being realistic. And given that that's what I was talking about, I think that that's what this is. It's a lack of realism. It's a lack of empathy. It's a lack of understanding of the greater issue at hand, or it's simply not caring about it. And unfortunately, we can look at this, unfortunately, in two ways. One that's benevolent and just say, well, they just don't understand. If they understood, they would behave differently. I think they do understand. I think that what they're doing is by design. And I think that it's designed to harm everybody to the point that our will is destroyed. This is how dictators do it. They harm the population in ways. They disappear them, they beat them, they kill them, they whatever dictators do. They don't care if they annihilate everybody as long as they're in power. They don't care. The other person, the woman that ran against the president there in Belarus, she's had to leave the country. And I'll bet you dimes to donuts they're going to find out she's the one who actually won. So we see it all the time. We know when any of places like this have their elections, we know what the outcome's going to be before they ever do it. I mean, why bother? Why bother, right? Today we have Thursaz as our rune for the day. Thursaz is the third rune of the Elder Futhark, so it's catalytic. It's known as Thor's rune. It's the thorn. But mostly, I mean, it can be used for a variety of things, weather magic, breaking through clouds, all of that. It does work. I know. But I think it's breaking down barriers, breaking through obstacles, breaking through perception, breaking past the things that don't allow us to come together with one another. As the thorn, you know, it's like, ooh, we want to give it its room. But at the same time, it can be used to chip away at the hardness of things, the difficulty between us that has brought us to this point where people can't even understand they have to wear a mask out around people. You don't just do it for yourself. You're doing it to protect others from your own breath and what could be coming out with it. The virus that could be shed just by standing there talking to someone without a mask on. The mask doesn't keep it all from going, but it seems to keep it close to you, close enough that if you're standing apart from somebody, you know, I literally go into stores now, and store personnel, depending on where I'm in, one feed store in particular that I go to, they're just right up, literally shoulder to shoulder. It's like, whoa, get away from me, you know? And I don't say that, but I move back and my eyes are big. It's like, lady. And then you got the ones that just wear the face shields with no mask underneath. You know, this is a time where, since we don't have the kind of national guidance and national direction that we should have had, we're going to have to develop that ourselves. So we got to think about what we're doing. Without the mask, I mean, do doctors just wear face shields? No, they put a mask on underneath it. You still have to stop the breath from leaving your face, right? From your nose and your mouth. You want to wear a face shield over it? Well, do it. It's probably a little easier than wearing goggles, but I don't know. You know, it's just going to depend on what you want to have in front of you. I don't know. I don't know what I'd feel comfortable in. I'd probably wear goggles, but maybe not. Maybe I'd feel better with a face shield. Well, it looks like this has happened again. Hopefully it will come back. There we go. That's twice in one deal. Yeah, I don't know. I got to do something else here. Anyhow, let's go ahead and do the geomancy rune before my computer just blows up all together. But breaking through barriers, you know, I don't know that you can do it directly with people, you know, to where you have that conversation with them, unless you can be sure you're going to be safe in it. But otherwise, because these days I don't know that anyone is. Let's get these in order. Oh. Well, okay, we have some puer energy, P-U-E-R. That's little boy energy, so a little bit of lack of impulse control today, that you might have to deal with little pockets of it. Pockets of resistance. But this is the energy we're talking about, puer. Active energy on fire and air, passive on water, and active on earth. So emotions can get the best of you, and that's the whole idea of impulse control, lack of impulse control. It's not Rubius, so you're not talking really adult evil energy. That's more refined and defined and all of that. You're just talking about little boy energy that's just a little, you know, scattered and having a little bit too much fun, you know, not really thinking about the impact of what they're doing. But it's not anything that's really scurrilous or anything like that. Not that type of an energy. But it's unstable, and so emotions could be a little bit unstable today, resulting in some impulse issues. Just try to stay on top of that if you can. Again, try to go in a shared direction with other people today. The 6 energy is about that. And I love the horse just looking at us like, hi, look what we're doing. Isn't this cool? Finally, we're going in the same direction. I don't know. I think that's been the theme of this for some time, and you know, I realize we're in a 22 year, and that's kind of what that's about. But well, not kind of. It is what it's about. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't really think we have a choice. I think that if we don't get united on the vis-a-vis the virus, we're just screwed, and we're not going to get out of it for a very long time. And we don't know when a vaccine's coming. We don't know. Is it going to be enough? Is it going to have to be done every year? I mean, we don't know. We don't know yet, but we will. You know, this is going to become more clear as to what's going to happen with respect to that and therapeutics and things like that. You know, you've got some people that just don't want to have vaccines. They don't want them. They would rather deal with it with therapeutics. But then they're also going to have to deal with something serious like this by socially distancing and wearing masks and staying isolated, you know, when they're ill. So, you know, however people intend to deal with this later on, we're just not there yet. And until we are, the only protection we have is to follow safety protocols. And if people aren't going to do that, if you got enough of them that won't, then, I mean, God, all it takes is one person, right, to upset the apple cart and get everybody sick. And what this is doing to people is strange. And maybe it isn't. You know, maybe this is what virologists and epidemiologists and all these people that are involved in this, maybe to them, it's like, oh yeah, well sure, you're going to see stuff like that. But the sound of it is just awful. And the long-term effects of this, you've got people that are calling themselves long haulers. They've had this for months and months and months. And they should be over it. And maybe they're testing negative. Maybe they test and they don't have it. But yet they're still feeling the effects of it. So I don't think that we know everything yet. And I think that until we have an extremely clear picture, as much as we can have, I don't think it makes sense to do anything other than follow the safety protocols. So again, be on a shared path with others. Let spirit inform the rebalancing of perceptions that needs to happen. Let that bend toward humanity and the feminine divine presence within. And understand that we need to be here when all is said and done. We need for all of us to survive so that we can rebuild our world together, because clearly viruses can take things and really disrupt things, and we're not accustomed to that here. We just aren't. And so if this is a trend in terms of viruses cropping up, we need to get on board with this. We need to figure this out so it's all hands on deck, so we can go into quarantine for 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever they're saying you should do, and do what we need to do. And then that way life can get back to normal as quickly as possible. Right? So, I don't know. We need a real restructuring though, don't we? In how we see things and how we come together, and what kind of obligation we owe one another. So, anyway, something to think about today. Thanks for watching, you guys. I'm going to go ahead and let you go about your day. I'll watch this, and actually I have to go publish the Esoteric Influences. It's probably done uploading to YouTube. And then I'll watch this and see how it did, and if I like it, I'll go ahead and publish it. If not, I'll come back and do it again. So, anyway. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much for coming by. Click subscribe. I'd love you to do that. And sign up for the newsletter over there on the blog. It's on the left side panel. Just scroll down a little bit. You'll see a place to put your email in, and it's just a newsletter. That's all it is. So anyway, I put like there's some classes for a class that's being offered by the Herbal Academy, and in fact they're going to have a really great 35% off sale on their courses beginning, I think, tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow, or maybe it's today, I'm not sure. I think it's tomorrow is when that starts. Yeah, Tuesday, and it's going to go till about the middle of September or so, but there'll be information on the blog about that. Anyhow, if you're into herbs, that you can take advantage of that great sale. So anyhow, thanks. Oh, and just know that if you do and you go through one of my links to get there, then I'll earn a small commission off the sale. So anyhow, that's my affiliate. I do a little bit of affiliate marketing to sort of monetize my blog a little bit, stressing a little bit. Anyway. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Have a really good day. Be good to yourself. Be good to one another. Wear a mask if you go out. Be the spiritual warrior within. Express that everywhere. And blessed be.